So we're still working with our angle pairs. Okay, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior, corresponding and consecutive interior. So if you are given that alternate interior angles are congruent, okay, so you see in your picture that those two angles, and you know they're alternate interior, you know they're congruent, then you can say that lines are parallel. Okay, and we would say that by using the alternate interior angle converse. Now converse means backward. Okay, so remember before, I don't remember which section it was, I think it was 3.2. I said how to use this in a proof, and it was if lines are parallel, then alternate interior angles are congruent. Do you remember writing that previously? Well, this is its converse. So now you're saying if those angles are congruent, then lines are parallel. So it's just the same thing but backwards. Okay, same thing with alternate exterior angles. So if we have alternate exterior angles that are congruent, then we can say that those lines are parallel by the alternate exterior angle converse. Same thing with corresponding angles. So if corresponding angles are congruent, then lines are parallel by the corresponding angle converse. And then we also have if consecutive interior angles are supplementary, not congruent. Okay, they are supplementary, meaning they add to 180. Then those lines are parallel by CIA converse. Okay, if you forgot where those angles are, I can draw a little picture here for you. So if I have parallel lines, right, with a transversal, alternate interior angles are those ones inside across the transversal there. Alternate exterior angles are on the outsides across the transversal. Corresponding angles are on the same side. One is interior, one is exterior. And consecutive interior angles are both interior and on the same side of the transversal. Okay, so if you forgot where those were, that's what you should look for. We also have two more here. So if two lines are perpendicular to the same line, then those lines are parallel. So if I have a line and a line that's perpendicular to it, right? Now say this line that I drew in second, okay, is perpendicular to another line. Well, then these two lines have to be parallel, okay, because they are perpendicular to that same line. Okay, and to use that in a proof, we just have to state it that way. So if two lines are perpendicular to the same line, then we have parallel lines. And you can use those symbols. So the upside down T for perpendicular, and then our symbol for parallel. Okay, the last one, if two lines are parallel to the same line, then those lines are parallel. Okay, so if I have two lines, and both of those lines are parallel to this third one, okay, then they are all parallel to each other. Okay, that's just called the transitivity of parallel lines. Okay, because it's kind of like the transitive property. So we call it the transitivity of parallel lines. Okay, so today we're just using those converses to state why two lines would be parallel to each other. So, questions on this before I keep going? So in this first set of examples here, we have given the following information. Determine which lines, if any, are parallel, and then state the reason that justifies your answer. So your reason is what we just wrote on the right-hand side up here. Okay, these would be your reasons. So if I am given in number 1 that angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. Okay, so these two angles are congruent. I have to state which lines then would be parallel. So what I do first is identify which line is my transversal. Okay, so if I have angle 3 and 7 are congruent, my transversal would be L because it hits both of those angles, correct? Okay, then since this is your transversal, it has to hit your two parallel lines. Well, it intersects line A and line B. So I would say my lines that are parallel are line A and line B. So A is parallel to B. And then I have to state why. Okay, so why are these parallel? Well, I notice since these two angles are congruent, those are alternate interior angles between those parallel lines. So I would say these are parallel lines by the alternate interior angle converse. So you just have to identify what that angle pair is and then use its converse to prove lines are parallel. Okay, we'll do another one, number 2. So we have angle 9 and angle 11. Okay, so again, first thing I do is identify the transversal that hits both of those angles. That's M. Okay, since M is the transversal, your transversal has to intersect two lines. Okay, the two lines that M intersects are A and B, so those must be the two lines that are parallel. So we have A parallel to B. Now, since those two angles are congruent, okay, I want to identify which angle pair those are, given that A and B are parallel then. Well, those are corresponding angles. So by that converse, those lines would be parallel. Questions? Are you still with me? Do you understand what I'm doing? All right, I want you to try 3 through 6 with the person sitting next to you. 3 through 6. Which one of your angle pairs adds to 180 up there at the top?
Wait, so what would 6 be?
Is there a transversal for that one?
Would it be B or M?
So in the directions, it says, given the following information, which lines are parallel, if any?
Oh,
Did you determine if lines are parallel, if any?
no.
But that they are.
It's parallel to B, and because A is
Yeah. Vertical angles, and then there's no way to
All right, so let's go through these ones here. So number 3, you're given angle 2 and angle 16 are congruent. Okay, so we have 2 and 16 here. So A is your transversal. Okay, so A cuts through both lines L and M. So line L would be parallel to line M. You do have to state which lines are parallel. Okay, L parallel to M. Okay, and then those two angles, that angle pair, those are alternate exterior angles. So by that converse, those two lines would be parallel. So again, we're just using this converse to prove that lines are parallel. Okay, whenever you're proving lines parallel, you use a converse. Okay, number 4, we have angle 5 plus angle 12 is 180. So 5 and 12 are right here. So line B is your transversal, making L and M your parallel lines. Okay, and those are consecutive interior angles. So by that converse, those lines would be parallel. Okay, then number 5, we have angle 2 and angle 3. Okay, line L is your transversal. So lines A and B are what we're trying to prove are parallel. And those would be parallel by the consecutive interior angle converse. Okay, last one, tripped a couple people up. Number 6, we have angle 13 and angle 11 are congruent. What type of angle pair are 13 and 11? Vertical angles. Do I have a reason to use in a proof to show lines are parallel with vertical angles? Do I have any vertical angles here? No. Okay, you cannot prove lines are parallel using vertical angles. So this would be none or no. You can't prove that those lines are parallel given vertical angles. Okay, the only way to prove lines are parallel are using these converses that are at the top of your note sheet. No, you cannot. Okay, questions on this first section, identifying those parallel lines or which converse to use. How'd you do identifying the parallel lines? Did you do okay?
I got all of them.
So again, make sure you look for that transversal. Okay, the transversal hits both of your angles that it's talking about. Okay, and your transversal has to cut through your two lines. Okay, that's why it's a transversal. It intersects both of those lines, so both of the lines that it intersects are your parallel lines. All right, so for the next couple problems here, we want to solve for x so that L is parallel to M. Okay, and then we have to identify the reason we use. So your reason is your converse at the top. So we're trying to make those two lines parallel given this information. So in number 7, I have an angle of 5x minus 5 and an angle of 6x minus 20. First thing I want to do is identify my angle pair if those lines were to be parallel. Which angle pair would that be? Those would be alternate exterior angles. Now, if those lines are parallel, what do I know about alternate exterior angles? They're congruent. So in order to solve for x, I would want to make those equal to each other. That way those lines would be parallel. So I would set 5x minus 5 equal to 6x minus 20. And then I could solve for x from there. Okay, so I do get x is equal to 15. Okay, since x is now equal to 15, I know those two angles are congruent to each other. Since those angles are congruent, I can now prove those lines are parallel. Okay, why can I prove those lines are parallel? What's my reason? From the top. Yes. Okay, the reason I can prove those are parallel now is by the alternate exterior angle converse. That's why I want you to identify that angle pair first. Okay, then you can use that converse to show those are parallel lines. Okay, we'll do another one here. Number 8. First thing I want to do, identify these angle pairs here. So it's talking about this angle and this angle. What's that angle pair called? Alternate interior angles. Okay, we know that alternate interior angles are congruent if your lines are parallel. So if I want those angles to be congruent, I need to set them equal to solve for x. So we have 6x is equal to 4x plus 20. I can subtract 4x and divide by 2. Okay, so now that x is equal to 10, if I were to plug 10 in, I know those angles are congruent. Okay, since those angles are congruent, I can now say line L is parallel to line M by the alternate interior angle converse. Questions so far? Number 9. If I'm looking at this angle right here, what's that angle measure? 90. Okay, what type of angle pair are these two? They are alternate interior angles. Okay, if they are alternate interior angles and I want those lines to be parallel, I can set them equal to each other. So 3x plus 15 has to equal 90. So subtract 15. And divide by 3. Okay, x is 25. Now there are two different reasons you could use here. One is the alternate interior angle converse. It's probably the one you thought of right away. Can you figure out what the other reason that you could use here is if you look at the top of your note sheet? If you figure it out, say it to your partner. Okay, what is it? Which one?
These two lines are perpendicular to the same lines. They're parallel.
Okay, so I could either have that alternate interior angle converse, or if two lines perpendicular to the same line, then your lines are parallel because they are perpendicular because they form that 90-degree angle. Okay, questions? No, I'm gonna have you do 4 of them, and then I'm gonna give you your homework. Any questions before I flip this over? You have to do 10 to 13.
What kind of school do you
I was gonna say, can I take number 2?
It's on this fun purple lavender color today.
have? Oh, cool.
6, 2, awesome. Same answers. All right, can we go?
Let's do Monday then.
Yes.
Wait, this is not the homework assignment though, correct? Correct.
No, that would be 2 weeks. No,
Why can't we just have these?
we just have to pick.
You have to write numbers? I just wrote a sign instead of. How do you know if they're converse?
We have to do this.
Are they all converse? Cool. Converse means backward.
We have to do the same thing we just did.
Yeah. Converse.
Did you get a negative for your first one?
We did one.
That was wrong.
I know. I want to make sure.
Okay, let's start.
No, he that's just
Okay, so this was. Well, I knew that by myself. You knew that. Anyhow. Besides the telling me.
My school, I'm doing their genius. That's hard.
So, I got this whole angle G plus angle A is equal to 180. Lines would be parallel.
That would be a off of one. This is 1/3, it's just a smaller. I think anybody who makes these
Left or right?
I did.
Oh, that's cute. This says we love you, and then it has
I
all the people in your
wouldn't.
class.
I wouldn't give you one like that on the test.
What?
So you want that?
Oh.
Don't. Just kidding.
They're all seniors now.
Yeah, the only one I reckon. Actually, let's see. Bryn, Grace. No one can forget Grace. Addison, Tabitha, Lily. Yep. Is that Garrett who? Do you know?
Garrett. What's his last name?
trying to think. Is he blonde or is he brown curly hair?
It's not Garrett Brisky.
It's not Garrett Brisky. Is it that other Garrett? I have no clue. I think he's a junior, actually.
Yeah, he's a junior. It's whatever Garrett it is, he's a junior.
Oh, okay. Then it's. Yeah.
All right, quickly here, number 10, 11, 12, and 13. Number 10, these angles are alternate interior angles. Okay, those angles are alternate interior angles. You should set each of those measures equal to each other. Okay, so those should be set equal. You should end with x is equal to 7. Okay, x is equal to 7, and those lines are parallel by the alternate interior angle converse. Number 11, that angle pair, those are alternate exterior angles. So those should be set equal to each other. Okay, and then x will be equal to 20. And those lines would be parallel by the alternate exterior angle converse. Number 12, those are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are congruent, so again, you would set those equal to each other. And you should get x is equal to 10. And then those lines would be parallel by the corresponding angle converse. Okay, last one I had you do here. This angle pair are consecutive interior angles. Now consecutive interior angles are supplementary if lines are parallel. So I would have to add these together to be equal to 180. Okay, so add those together to be equal to 180. Once you solve for x, you should get 22. And then those lines would be parallel by the consecutive interior angle converse. Okay, questions on the problems that I had you do? If you did more than that, I do have the answers to the other problems. So if you did the other problems and like to know if you did it correctly, I do have those answers as well. Other than that,